An Entang Mangle Vent. FNaF VR introduced the vent repair minigames featuring Mangle and entered in some of the scariest experiences I've been through. I've played through the Mangle Vent repair from that on this channel, and it is quite a terrifying experience. Now, despite my idiocy in that video, dealing with 3 vents was fairly simple, since they open one by one. However, it was actually planned to have another vent at the top of the elevator. Every time you see that opening, you think, oh man, is Mangle gonna pop out there? But the thing is, it could have. Mangle was planned to have a 4th entry point this whole time. Can you imagine how rude of an awakening that would have been if nobody had noticed it? And how incredibly, utterly terrifying it would have been if that was implemented. Mangle would have had the high ground, and I would be screaming, I hate you. I am 100% certain that would have caused a lot more deaths. I know that I would have died if Mangle could have come in from the top. Imagine if it was behind you though, and like you'd have to like spin around 360. Oh my god, or all 5, especially in blacklight mode. And at 9, Mobile Freddy. The original FNaF that Scott had in mind is not at all like the one we know today. Well, it is in the sense that it is what he wanted to make, but so many ideas and mechanics were added and changed that while we know FNaF is a point and click that gets progressively harder, adding more animatronics later on in a playthrough, that wasn't what Scott had planned at the beginning. In a statement that was most likely released on Reddit, Scott revealed that he had originally planned to make Freddy only jump scare you if you ran out of power, and that he never wanted him to leave the main stage. Eventually, this changed, and we'll never really know why. Perhaps it was because the game was too easy, or he wanted to see how things would work with 2 animatronics in the same hallway, or perhaps he had Freddy moving around but got jump scared randomly and kept it, or he just wanted to torture us like the sadistic fool we all know him to be. Why do you do this to me, Scott? Why? I'm just kidding, please notice me, Sky Daddy Scott. Please. Imagine if he didn't move and we were just waiting the whole time for him to move. And at 8, Glamrock Wardrobe Swap. This is something I didn't notice until I went into the comments of the first Security Breach trailer. In summer of 2020, Funko leaked the designs of the action figures for Security Breach, thus leaking the designs of the animatronics. People were pissed about this, obviously, since Scott had specifically told Funko not to release anything. At least we figure, because, you know, he's Scott. I don't know if he made a post about it or something like that. Why does Funko leak literally everything? Everything possible, they leak. They're like Walmart. Anyway, the design of the characters from the gameplay trailer are actually different to those of the action figures released. This is most notable on Roxanne's clothes, where Scott moved the black star shapes, and on Monty's guitar, where he removed or made the black stripes smaller. Chica's guitar is also a lighter blue and mostly white, as opposed to the white and a darker blue of the original action figure. And the animatronics in the trailer are properly proportioned. The action figure heads are weird, okay? They creep me out. At least if these weren't preliminary designs. And at 7, lives. Haha. I think the one thing that would have changed everything is if FNaF had a life system. Sure, you can go back and do it again after you fail Night 5, thanks to the continue button, but I think lives would have made the game worse rather than better. Part of the appeal is that you have one shot, and while yes it saves what night you're on, you still need to restart that night, and I think that lives would have taken away from that. Even though it's basically the same thing, but also not. Unless the lives would let you continue the night that you were on. Like, if you got jump scared at 5 AM, you'd still be at 5 AM until you ran out of lives, which would also kind of break the game, unless it was meant to be, like, if you run out of lives, you have to go back to night 1. Especially if you use the glitch where you can continue the jump scare for a long time while still continuing the night, until eventually you die unless you beat the night by continuing the jump scare. With the system it currently has, lives are redundant, but we know that this was planned thanks to gameplay that was left on Scott's YouTube channel from the development days of the first FNaF game. I can't believe this game has gone from a last-ditch attempt to being featured next to God of War, Call of Duty, and more in the PlayStation 5 event last year. That's incredible. Good job, Scott. And at 6, Blacklight mode. You may have seen the Blacklight animatronics if you pay attention to the FNaF merch. They released Blacklight plushies and pop figures a while ago without any real explanation. Well, as it turns out, these alternate colored animatronics are actually for Help Wanted's Blacklight mode, or hard mode, whatever you want to call it. You don't actually get to see them unless you boundary break, since the animatronics are hidden behind curtains that don't open in Blacklight mode, but they are still there. This is closer to the top because they weren't, like, totally, like, changed, but you can't really like interact with them or whatever, even when like close up. And they're even in the blacklight repair modes, but you can't really see them because it's all so goddamn dark. Chica's blacklight mode, Bonnie's blacklight mode, they're all the blacklight colored animatronics, but you can't actually tell, so yeah, I still kind of wish I got those pop figures. I still want like a glitching glitch trap, and I want like an actual glitch trap. And I should have gotten the pop figures when they came out. They're worth so much now. Halfway through in at number 5, the box. The infamous box was first released with the ending of FNaF 4, saying some things are best left forgotten for now, but we never knew what was in the box. However, the community seems to think that the contents of the box have changed. Originally, it's believed to be dream theory, since originally Scott said the community may not accept it that way. However, recently there are multiple theories, like that it contains the body of Crying Child, similarly to how Charlotte was found in the 4th Closet novel. But it's also been rumored to be revealed in the new Security Breach teaser game, like the side-scrolling beat-em-up brawler one. Yeah, I can't find any source that confirms this, however, so if anyone has any links about that, please send them to me on Instagram. Don't put them in the comments, because YouTube will probably automatically delete those. And at 4, cameras. The beta for FNaF was full of unused or cut features. Some of these things were interesting, like the original camera map. While now we see boxes that indicate the rooms that the cameras were located, and lines leading to other rooms, which are hallways and stuff like that. Originally, we saw the entire layout at once, and we could actually see the directions the cameras were facing, showing us what we'd really be looking at. I can see how this would be useful, but since the gameplay is more of a slideshow-esque format instead of the animatronics free roaming, like how they do in FNaF VR, we don't really need all that information. And the design we know and love today really keeps it simple and is really all we need. They'll end up in one position on a camera, or they'll be in another, and knowing the direction doesn't really matter if that's the case. It would have been interesting for sure and may have changed the game, but it's unnecessary unless the characters walked around all willy-nilly, like I said, like they do in FNaF VR. I mean, they don't walk around willy-nilly, but you can see them walking this time. Maybe then it would be useful, but like, I don't know. And at 3, rogue mechanics. If you're an avid fan of the channel or the Ultimate Custom Night, you may already know this detail, but in fact the mechanics for a few of the characters changed after just one day. Nightmare Freddy, Phone Guy, and Foxy were all implemented on April 1st with their behaviors based on wrong theories, basically disproving them at that moment and torturing us and William with them. Phone Guy couldn't talk while Springtrap was on the move, because he can't be in 2 places at once. Nightmare Freddy would wake you up from a nightmare for a bit before pulling you back to sleep and back into the game, and Foxy would come help you out by blocking a doorway. Neat ways of disproving theories, but really, Scott, you had to go with the whole Foxy is a good guy theory, and that's the one that you wanted to disprove, not something like really impactful. That's kind of a troll if you ask me. The next day though, the mechanics were switched to what they are today. So yeah, I don't know if you can still access them or not. Maybe if you change your date and your computer to the day that they were that, I don't know. I doubt it. It was an update, so. And ultimately in at number 2, co-op mode. Believe it or not, FNaF is actually going to include a co-op mode. Well, at least in Help Wanted. In the game files, there is a folder called Multiplayer that has several files stored within it. These files are named like Character Info Table, MP Game Mode, and so on, suggesting that there was a multiplayer mode actually planned for release. But it's now unclear whether it will be entirely scrapped, saved for a future update, or implemented into Security Breach. Cause, you know, Fanny has all your friends. Maybe some more of them other than Gregory escaped. What would a multiplayer mode look like? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Would you play it? Let me know below. My theory is that the multiplayer mode may have been used for the trailer of FNaF VR, since you can see the hands and the head of the person playing, but maybe it's something more. Maybe they were testing stuff out for Security Breach. Why wouldn't they remove those files from the game? And like, why would they call it multiplayer if it was just for a trailer though? You see why I'm confused? However, if you want to play multiplayer FNaF, you can by using custom VR chat maps. I don't know how to work custom VR chat maps, but like maybe I can figure it out and do like a group meetup thing, like on my channel or something. Like maybe I could make a map, like live stream on like my Twitch or something, I don't know. It sounds complicated, plus you don't need a VR headset to actually play VR chat. There is a flat mode version, and like the entire game is free. It's the same thing, you just download VR chat, you don't have to have a headset for it. So like you can do this with your friends, literally right now. Like go open Steam, download VR chat, figure out how to work custom maps, and you're good. You can go play FNaF in multiplayer. Finally, in at number 1, the end. The FNaF story we know and love, but also rage out on a daily basis. Wait. That's just me and MatPat? Sorry to assume. Well, the complicated story that makes me cry myself to sleep actually could have been a lot simpler and to the point. 3 games, 1 story. That's right. In case you missed it in previous lists, the FNaF story was only meant to be 3 games long, with William dying in the FNaF 3 fire. However, the community thought that the Springtrap jump scare was disappointing, so Scott overcorrected in FNaF 4 with the nightmare animatronics. But then we got more confused, so he continued. The story could have been 3 games long. Maybe even no book, no movie, no Fazbear Frights. Yeah, that's insane. It's incredibly nuts to think that this 9-game long story could have been just a third of that length. No AR game, no VR game. Goddamn, that just makes me rethink my whole life. Like, is this really what the channel should be covering? I could be talking about Skyrim right now. I love Skyrim. It's my favorite game. Why don't I do that? No one would click it, that's for damn sure.
At 10 Mini Arena. A load of these secret animatronics are going to be coming from FNaF VR, and most of them involve just minor appearances and they don't have any effect on actual gameplay. The Mini Arena can sometimes pop up in the Fun with Plush Trap minigame in FNaF VR. I don't actually know if it can pop up in the Fun with Balloon Boy version or even the Blacklight version, so don't assume if they will or won't, just look it up, which is probably something I should have done for this list. However, this Easter egg is rare and hasn't happened to me or anyone I've seen play it unless they were intentionally looking for it, like in the video that I used, because there aren't any actual secret animatronics that haven't been revealed or something like that. It's just secret appearances. We know everything we can about the series at this point, so let's just accept this list for what it is. Number 9, Plush Trap. Plush Trap will appear in 50-20 mode in Ultimate Custom Night. 50-20 mode being where you set 50 animatronics to level 20 and then you play. Which if you do, you are an absolute mad lad and you need to be put away. Okay, not actually, because that's the whole point of the game, but still. Plush Trap will be added in by Dee Dee when she starts singing about how things are unfortunate. Oh sis, you don't even know the half of it. However, if you do see Dee Dee add a new challenger, be sure you check Cam 6 right away. Because if she does indeed add Plush Trap, he will be sitting on a stool in the hallway and you only have 6 seconds to scare him off, otherwise he will jump scare you, no matter what you do. If you scare him off after those 6 seconds, he's going to come back anyway, you little frickin' turd. Why you gotta be so rude? Is it because your dad abandoned you saying he's gonna go kill more kids, but he never came back with any of them for you to kill? In this case, I'm also assuming that Springtrap is your dad, because you look like him the most. And it ate Endo. Endo is basically just a naked endoskeleton that totally screws with what the phone guy says in FNaF 1 to explain why the animatronics are attacking you. He said it's because you look like a naked endoskeleton, but then there is one standing right there in your office in FNaF 2 and FNaF VR. They totally ignore it. This one is similar to the Mini Arena. Just keep restarting the level and eventually you will find Endo standing at the right of your desk. This can happen in both Blacklight mode and regular mode on any night. And I know that now the explanation for why they're attacking you is because you play as Michael Afton, who looks like his father, who's the one that killed all the kids in the first place, but come on. I really don't like logical inconsistencies. I've probably made so many countering comments over previous videos. I probably can't say anything about logical inconsistencies at this point. And at 7, Shadow Bonnie. Shadow Bonnie is another challenger that can be added into the game after Dee Dee starts singing like my Aunt Denise at Thanksgiving after having a little too much cranberry sauce. I don't know why she does it, she just does. Do cranberries have any hallucinogenic properties to them, like nutmeg in high doses? Or would berries in Pokemon potentially be hallucinogenic? Hence why the Pokemon think that their HP just got increased by 10. As I was saying, Shadow Bonnie can just be thrown into the game at any time, usually closer to the start of the night. However, when active, Shadow Bonnie will appear in your office on the right hand side, and then will just proceed to flicker the lights and then just cut them off completely for around 20 to 21 seconds. During that time, the office is practically pitch black, and you are unable to see if there are any other animatronics with you unless you use a flashlight, thus wasting even more power. It's a pretty strong ability if I'm being totally honest. If I had the ability to just turn off lights whenever I wanted without needing a light switch, I would be having so much fun. Who the hell? And at 6, Helpy. Oh my god, I hate this little bugger. And not just because of Buff Helpy anymore, just because of the damn Helpy horror sections from the Foxy Cove Pirate Ride and the Curse of Dreadbear DLC. But while Helpy makes a prominent appearance there, you may not have had a chance to see him appear in the main menu screen for the game. In the main level selection screen for the base game, Helpy can appear holding onto the monitor and hanging off the side like some sort of demonic fireman. And if that wasn't terrifying enough, because let's face it, if you load in expecting to see a normal menu screen and then you see a giant bear right in front of your face, you'd be pretty concerned too. You can also see Helpy in FNaF 2's office, behind you, like some sort of weird peeping Tom that gets off on you being terrified and uses it as motivation to work out later. Yeah, you can also encounter him at the same time as Endo, making this all the more terrifying. Like, did he put Endo in your office? Why would he do that? How is Helpy even at the FNAF 2 location? Who knows anymore? I sure as hell don't. Halfway through at number 5, Nightmare Chica. Nightmare Chica is one of the most terrifying secret animatronics in the whole game of Ultimate Custom Night. Again, summoned after Dee Dee sings her song, Nightmare Chica will appear right behind you, and is actually capable of jump scaring the player. You'll know if Chica is behind you because you will all of a sudden see the teeth. Yes, if Nightmare Chica is summoned, you will literally see her start to close her mouth around you, and to fight this off, you either need to turn on the air conditioning or the heat in an effort to make her go away. But once you do that, she's done for the night. I don't know if Dee Dee can pop back up and summon her again, but if she can't, then you won't have to deal with her again. If Chica closes her mouth around your head, she will jump scare you, end the night, and let's be honest, probably claw your face off and use it as pepperoni. You also have to turn the AC on, which is weird because I had to turn my AC off, and it's been off for like 10 minutes, and it's already up to 30 degrees in my apartment, so yay. And at 4, Biddy Bap. The appearance of Biddy Bap is identical to that of the Mini-Rena in FNAF VR. The Biddy Bap may show up in Circus Baby's dark room level, where you need to hide in the closet like my roommate did for countless years. However, this time you're hiding from Baby as she looks around the room for you until she sees you, runs over, then makes you close the door and hold it shut until she forgets you're there and then goes away. Until she sees you again, then you have to close the door and then do the same thing for hours and hours. But by the door, you can end up seeing a little Biddy Bap just standing there, menacingly. And if you are one of the people who commented on the first scariest FNAF animatronics video saying that the Biddy Baps weren't scary, obviously you haven't seen this Easter egg, because holy crap, it's terrifying just to see it there, staring, laughing, wanting us to die and suffer. It's like any normal baby. Just kidding, Landon, don't fire me. And at 3, Lolbit. Lolbit actually does make an appearance in Ultimate Custom Night, however, it's not in the same vein as the others. While the other animatronics are actually visible, Lolbit's bit is just a load of loud noises as the please stand by graphic shows up on the screen, blocking the middle of your vision. The whole point of this character is to cause noise, since there are characters who jump scare you based on sound, as made evident by the noise bar in the bottom left of the screen. This makes a whole lot of noise for a long time, meaning that all the animatronics will know you're there, and the Music Man, if he is in the game, will jump scare you basically immediately, because Music Man hates noise for some reason. Gotta love that logic. And a 2, XOR. I didn't know that Elon Musk's kid was an animatronic. This animatronic is actually in the same vein as Shadow Bonnie, with a name that still makes more sense than X Archangel 12 in Roman numerals. This animatronic is referred to as Shadow Dee Dee, which acts in a similar way to Dee Dee in this game. However, the color palette changes to black, white, and red, and the song she sings goes backwards and is lower pitched. However, this is probably the worst thing you can get in this game, because instead of summoning one extra animatronic, it summons all of them. Every single one. Hell, based on the description on the wiki, it may summon every single animatronic in the game. Yeah, it's terrifying. But there is one animatronic that is honestly a real surprise and is probably the most interesting one on this list. So, coming in at number 1, Coffee. Now, in FNAF VR, you can see multiple animatronics, all of which were on this list. However, the most interesting one is probably the only actual secret animatronic on this list, and it's Coffee, which isn't even an animatronic from the FNAF series. It's actually from another one of Scott's games, which failed, like every other game before FNAF. Coffee is from the game called Desolate Hope, and it's an autonomous service robot designed to tend to the needs of nearby humans. It's basically a sentient coffee machine that actually makes coffee, unlike the one from Yog Labs. Coffee can be seen in Five Nights 3 if you reload the level enough times in FNAF VR, and he will be sitting on your desk, unable to be interacted with, and he won't even make you coffee. Maybe he is more like the Yog Labs coffee machine than I thought.
In a 10, the Bite of 87. The Bite of 87 is one of the most mysterious moments in the entire FNAF series, and it was introduced in the very first game. Being introduced in the series in FNAF 1 from 2014, the Bite of 87 has remained one of the most debated points in FNAF history, and we can't quite agree on what happened. At first we thought that Golden Freddy caused the bite, then we thought Freddy, then we thought Mangle, then Fredbear, then Toy Chica, and then back to Mangle, and everyone in between. Everyone
has their different opinion on the subject, but for some reason most people think that it's confirmed, or that the bite of 83 from FNAF 4 is the bite of 87, which it isn't. If you Google bite of 87 on Google Images, you actually get pictures of the bite from FNAF 4, which actually takes place in 1983. In fact, I'm sure you're seeing pictures of the incident now. The bite of 87 and 83 have been confused for ages, and they're still being confused to this day. Honestly, it's kind of frightening, based on how many people get mad at me because I go against something that MapPad said, but then also tell me that I'm wrong about the bite of 83, even though I agree with MapPad on that point. Okay, just because Markiplier asked if it was the bite of 87 doesn't mean that it is, okay? It's not. It's a mistake. For you, at least, changed everything. That's right, I'm getting sassy today. It's on you. It did 9 lives. One thing that I think would have changed everything is if FNAF had a life system. Sure, you can go back and do it again after you fail night 5 thanks to the continue button, but I think that lives would have made this game worse rather than better. Part of the appeal is that you only have one shot, and while yes it saves what night you're on, you still need to restart everything, and I think that lives would take away from that. Even though it's basically the same thing, unless maybe the lives would let you continue the night that you were on, like from where you got jump scared. Like if you got jump scared at 5 AM, you'd still be at 5 AM, which I feel would kind of break the game. Especially if you use the glitch where you can continue the jump scare for a long time by just moving the mouse and like reopening the camera. But it also still continues the night. But, okay, yeah. With the system it has, lives are kind of redundant, but we know that this was a planned feature thanks to gameplay that was left on Scott's YouTube channel from the development days of the first FNAF game. Either way, personally, I think that adding lives would have been a mistake and changed how FNAF would have played out, and it honestly might not have been as popular as it ended up becoming. In a day, Elizabeth. Speaking of mistakes, what about your kid? I'm kidding. What about getting your own kid killed? Yeah, like I don't know how William thought that this was a good idea. Like, I feel like this guy just thought, how do I capture kids more efficiently? Oh, I know, I can make a robot to lure them in and then grab them when they're close, but what will its design be? Hey honey, come here, daddy wants some design tips. Yeah, and then Elizabeth ends up making the most predictable move ever and going directly against her father's instructions to see a robot that's basically perfect in her eyes. Like, bro, William, dude, why did you think this was ever going to end well? Why did you think that this wasn't going to happen? When has a kid ever listened to a parent, especially at that age when they're seemingly loaded because you own a successful entertainment business, okay? Spoiled rich kids listening to their dad when they say not to touch a giant robot made to appeal to them specifically? Yeah, it's a freaking genius idea. Flawless, okay? God, you're a real special kind of stupid, man. Or like, maybe at least program a blacklist of kids not to steal. Like you have facial recognition tech. So come on, dude. In its 7th hiding spot. How the absolute living hell did anyone end up getting away with this? The smell of rotting bodies inside of animatronics would ruin the place, especially when you're meant to eat there. The heat from the animatronics insides would actually speed up decomposition, and the animatronics are in front of people every single day. They even started complaining that the animatronics were leaking blood and mucus, and as well as, quote, smelling like death. If this was real life and William getting away with this wasn't important for the plot of the games, he would have been caught for that instantly, okay? Like, oh, we never found the bodies of these kids, but now these animatronics are leaking blood and smell like dead bodies. They even kind of make bone-crushing sounds when they move around. We should probably check this out. Oh, look, we found the missing kids. Afton, you're under arrest. Boom! Instantly. Like, I don't know how this wasn't an open and shut case. Straight up. William is so goddamn stupid that he shouldn't have made it to the first game. Okay? His plan is a whole dumpster fire of bad ideas. Actually, you know what? No, dumpster fires are actually better than this. Because fire. And its 6th timeline. Trying to think about a FNAF timeline is probably one of the worst decisions you can ever make. The FNAF timeline is not for the faint of heart, and honestly, if it wasn't my job at this point to think about it, I wouldn't even have touched the damn thing. Before we started FNAF videos, do you think I was just sitting at home thinking about the timeline? Hell no! I just trusted what Matt had said. And honestly, I know that's what a lot of you do as well, but there are some things in his FNAF theories that I would question, but since it wasn't my job to care, I really didn't, and it didn't make my life any worse. So trust me, if you aren't getting paid to talk about FNAF, or aren't trying to make a career by talking about FNAF, and it's convoluted, what-if story timeline, don't bother, okay? It can be fun to speculate, but don't invest a lot of time and energy into it, because honestly, it will have no benefits. Hell, it has no benefits for me, and I've been doing it for 2 years. Spend that time playing games with your friends, or even by yourself. Hell, even make a D&D campaign based on FNAF if you want to. I was thinking about something like that. But like, you could just do it as a way to have fun with people who share your passion, okay? But don't worry about the timeline. Trust me. All it brings you is pain and suffering, crying endlessly, although that could also be my daddy issues. Halfway through at number 5, Immobile Freddy. The original FNAF that Scott had in mind is not at all like the one he actually released. Well, it is in a sense that it's what he wanted to make, but so many ideas and mechanics were added and changed that while we know FNAF as a point-and-click game that gets progressively harder, adding more animatronics later on in a playthrough, that wasn't actually what Scott had planned for at the beginning. In a statement on Reddit, probably, Scott revealed that he originally had plans to make Freddy only jump scare you if you ran out of power, and that he actually never wanted Freddy to leave the main stage. Eventually this changed, and we'll never really know why. Perhaps it was because the game was too easy, or maybe he wanted to see how things would go with 2 animatronics in the same hallway, or maybe he just wanted to see how it would go with Freddy. Or perhaps he had Freddy moving around but he got jump scared randomly and just kept it in. Or he just wanted to torture us more, like the sadistic fool that we all know him to be. Why do you do this to us, Scott? Why? I'm kidding, please put me in the movie. In at 4, Alivened. While Henry might have had issues killing Afton for whatever reason, he seems to be just fine offing his son when he gets the chance. And by his son, I mean Afton's son. And by he, I mean Henry Emily. Okay, I mean, and like in both of the fires set by Henry that we see, FNAF 3 and FNAF 6, Michael was there both times, and he didn't seem to care that Michael was in the building. He doesn't even give Michael the opportunity to exit the building at FNAF 6, despite there having been a way out planned. Quote from Henry's final speech, "And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling you are right where you want to be." He assumes that we also want to die in these halls and doesn't give us the chance to actually make the decision for ourselves. So he just forces us to die since he doesn't really give us a way out. So sorry man, but that's murder. Whether we wanted it or not, assisted suicide is still illegal, at least for the majority of states from my understanding. So either way, this is a crime. But again, he doesn't give us the option, making it more of a murder than an assisted self-offing. All the Henry stands are gonna be mad at me, but it's true, okay? He didn't even give us a choice. He just assumed that we wanted death, and he was like, okay, I'll give it to you, but... Getting close to the end of number 3, Neglect. Now this might be a controversial topic, I mean, this may also make a few Henry stands mad, but you know what, it needs to be said. If you're suspicious of your business partner and concerned for your daughter's well-being, you don't just give her a special bracelet that makes her a priority to the one security bot you have, especially when that bot can be disabled by simply placing a couple of boxes on top of it. You keep her home as much as you can, and not in a controlling way, but in like a protective way. Like you keep an eye on her, okay? You let her play around in the backyard, you play with her, you do stuff as a family, okay? And you should be doing that anyway, because, you know, she's like 3 years old. You don't give her a bracelet then let her run amongst the big kids at a pizza place where she then gets locked outside and then killed. Bro, no. How did she even get locked outside? How is that possible? How could that even happen? Neglect. This man put a green bracelet on his 3-year-old daughter and said that's enough, and then neglected her, hoping the green would be enough. Bro, what the hell? Especially when the man you think is going to hurt her is the one who built the goddamn animatronics in the first place.
and then also knows exactly how to disable it when the time comes. The worst thing that Henry has done was straight up get his daughter killed. He suspected William and then didn't report it to the cops. Maybe he could at least get a conspiracy to commit charge, and then he thinks that a bracelet is going to keep his daughter safe thanks to an animatronic that William had designed. It was Afton Robotics, after all. Holy crap, you can't fight me on that. You know I'm right, alright? She was running amongst the big kids looking hella sus. But ultimately, in at number 2, Crying Child. I've had a ton of people complain to me about how Crying Child's death wasn't William's fault, since he didn't put Crying Child in Fredbear's mouth and the spring locks failing was because he was crying. However, to me, there is no logical way that an animatronic jaw would have crushed his skull. The spring locks weren't actually active because the spring locks are used to move the robotic parts to the side, and Fredbear was actually in animatronic mode, meaning that they weren't needed. And crushing a skull would require a lot of power to actually accomplish with just, like, an opening and closing mechanism. So the only way that Crying Child's skull could have been crushed was if Afton had intentionally supercharged the animatronic, which would make sense if he wanted to use it as a kill machine, or maybe even a backup kill suit, figuring that more power would help him, which clearly it did, just in the worst way possible. There is no way that this was a spring lock failure, okay? It was an accident and it was a mistake, but the Fredbear suit was already in animatronic mode, meaning the spring lock mechanisms used to keep the robot parts to the side so that someone could be in the suit weren't being used. The spring lock failure problem comes from when those mechanisms are put under stress, under the stress of keeping the parts away from the person in the suit. If it's in robot mode, the spring locks can't fail because they're not being used. Keep in mind the term spring lock in this context is referring to the parts that move the robotic bits away instead of the actual suit, which is also referred to as a spring lock. But either way, Michael putting Crying Child in the mouth was meant to be a joke, but it ended up being a mistake that changed everything. And finally, in at number 1, playing. Probably the biggest mistake you can make in FNaF history, and the one I tend to try to avoid, is actually playing the games. Think about it. If you don't play FNaF, you don't have to worry about the jump scares or the stress at all. You can just sit there and watch other people scream on your behalf. And isn't that the dream? And not even like the dream theory, just the dream. It's probably the biggest mistake that you can make, and it's just because you decided to boot up the game. I've only played FNaF VR a handful of times, and then I've played Security Breach all the way through. And while I do suffer at the hands of Freddy Fazbear and Skunk Gotham, that's not due to me playing the game. That's because of you people and your unwillingness to click on literally any other kind of video that we release. I'm joking, but I'm also not joking. Can you, for God's sakes, please click on some of the other videos for once? Please, we have to make a whole other channel to talk about Minecraft. Like, come on. Or if we play something else that's like a new, like the new open world horror spider train fighting simulator or whatever it is, Choo Choo Charles or something. Could you watch that? Okay, it's exhausting talking about FNaF every day, man. Like, I love the series, kind of, don't get me wrong, but like, talking about it every day, especially with people yelling at me because I suggested that Crying Child is the one you should not have killed, and that's not what MapPad says, like, bro, we've made over 500 FNaF videos at this point. I'm not even kidding. Check the FNaF playlist. And while we may not have as many subscribers as other FNaF channels, I think I have at least as much knowledge, okay? We've talked about around 5,000 FNaF related points, give or take a few hundred, but like, come on.
Cut me some slack.
And at 10, Balloon Boy. FNaF has taken some flack for inconsistencies in the games in the past, and while some can be attributed to the story just being convoluted and, you know, variations in character depiction or, you know, simply maybe a trick of the light sometimes when it comes to that kind of detail, not all can be reasonably explained or have a case made for them for being intentional, because you know what, the goddamn spring trap makes no sense, okay? Spring, then scrap, then burn, what's going on? The inconsistency of Balloon Boy's colored buttons, however, is just, it's one mistake that many fans think was not intentional, but simply something that was overlooked and not really considered. Balloon Boy's buttons originally appear white when he first appears in FNaF 2, but later on appear to change to black every time when you shine the flashlight on him. This has led fans to theorize that there are actually 2 Balloon Boys simply because of the color of his buttons. What do you think? Was it a mistake or are there actually 2 balloon boys? It was a mistake, okay? It's a mistake. In at 9, where's Chica's cupcake? Well, Chica has become known for her cupcake, which she's often pictured with, because, you know, it's Chica and her cupcake. Baby loves her cake. This has left many fans of the franchise wondering where it was in the first game. In that game, Chica is still wearing her Let's Eat bib, but without any actual cupcake to come along with her. Probably because FNaF blew up in a way that Scott wasn't expecting, so of course there's going to be inconsistencies when he has to change things up because he made the next game in 87 days. Especially because it's just a prop. And because so much of the story is not surrounding the events of the actual cupcake itself, I think it's kind of okay. Because it's just a goddamn cupcake. But again, people they think crazy things. A lot of people are looking for more of an explanation than just it hadn't been designed yet. But oh well. Maybe this version of Chica just simply didn't have a cupcake like we seemingly see with the glam rock version of the character, okay? It's entirely possible. However, there does seem to be a monument to the cupcake outside of her green room, so... I mean, she's not using it, so maybe that's what's happening in this one, okay? We don't see the entire pizzeria. Maybe it's just chilling out in the kitchen. You never know. In at 8, FNaF High School. Okay, so sadly, I don't actually think it's sadly. I think it's probably a blessing. I wasn't able to actually track down the cartoon to watch, but apparently there's an animated series based off of the actual like animatronic characters from FNaF. Like what? I don't know if this actually does exist, or if it's just the joke, but either way it looks ridiculous. The show is supposed to imagine what the lives of the animatronics would be if they were human and in high school. Don't know why. The description reads, quote, Golden has no control over his life, Fox has made mistakes, Chica has no friends, Bonnie is constantly bullied, and Freddy has a secret. What? Someone tried to turn the world of FNaF into a high school drama series? I'm sorry, but you can never beat winging it. Why? Why does everything have to be turned into a high school drama? And although I was unable to locate the actual animated series, maybe this is supposed to be referencing the Ultimate Custom Night animatronic teenage, like the high school thing, because like Chica's high school thing, you know, the high school years of Chica, maybe that's what this is referencing. I don't know. The whole idea just seems to be a huge mistake, and it changed how I looked at the series. Just please don't let this be real. In at 7, Night 8. A weird glitch in the game actually allows you to play through an 8th night in FNaF 2, and possibly also in the original FNaF game as well, although I'm not trying it. Apparently, when you scroll through the starting menu following the completion of the game can actually glitch and allow you to play an 8th night out of the 5 nights. Now, I was surprised when I first discovered this. I was surprised when I first discovered that there was more than 5 nights. I mean, the game is literally called Five Nights at Freddy's, and apparently there's more than 5 nights. But I don't know if this 8th night is actually a glitch or if it's intentional. I feel like it's a glitch because the 7th night is always the custom night, right? But yeah, even in the original FNaF game, you can actually play the 5 nights, then continue on to the 6th night, and then you get the, again, custom 7th night, where you can change the difficulty of the animatronics. But, like, apparently you can glitch out FNaF 2 and get Night 8. I don't know, okay? Though whether or not this was a mistake or, like, intentional remains a mystery, but most people believe that it's just a glitch. And you know what? It changes everything? At 6, fan art. After promotional artwork for FNaF 7 was released on social media, it was almost immediately taken back down. Fortunately, fans still got to see the artwork released because it made its way onto Reddit, because, you know, it's always on Reddit. But why was it taken down? Scott didn't realize that he wasn't really the person who created it. He didn't just use his own artwork and models, okay, when he was actually like constructing this, but he accidentally mixed fan models and fan art into the actual cover as well. And because of this, he immediately took it down, not wanting to use someone else's work. And understandably, he was upset about it. But like, again, how did this happen? Like, you're literally the creator of the series. How do you mess up and not use an original thing? Apparently, it was because the models that his team found were so close to the originals of the characters that they actually thought that it was Scott's. Following this mistake, Scott himself actually commended those who made the fan art because they did such an amazing job that it was mistaken for his own. But yeah, he even admitted that some of the fan-made models were better than his. And although we've seen some other moments that showcase this, Scott's reaction continues to highlight just how much he cares and respects the fan base of FNaF and its community and just how good you are at making fan art. Okay, that's all we're gonna say on the subject because I could already hear the comments. I'm sorry, we're working on it. Halfway through into number 5, continuity. For many, a lot of the story that is explored and hinted at in the games has become somewhat hard to follow or hard to understand, understandably so. More filled with theories than having anything actually confirmed. So yeah, the whole story is just theories really. And while many have praised the games for this kind of story that begins to unravel the more you play, involving murder and family drama, there has also been some continuity errors within the lore. The only thing that can be said about retcons being introduced in regards to the storytelling is that at least Scott recognizes that not everything can be perfect, but has reassured the community that he only made one retcon, at least at the time of that Reddit post. Since then, I'm sure he's made more, okay? And just because he doesn't say it doesn't mean that it didn't happen, okay? We had a whole list of the top 10 FNaF retcons. Alright, go watch that one, because it's true. There's more than one, I'm telling you. In at 4, the end of FNaF. Did you know that FNaF almost ended? Well, if you've watched this channel enough, you should know that. So if you don't, be sure you hit subscribe and turn notifications on. Anyway, the original ending of FNaF, according to Scott himself during an interview with Daco, was an ending that we all originally thought. Yes, FNaF 3 was supposed to be the end of the series, despite Scott leaving Springtrap in the background of the final newspaper image, because of course he would. That's why we released the spirits of the missing children. That's why the place burns down. That's why it feels like the end, because it was supposed to be. But why did we get another 6 games after? Well, simple, because the Springtrap jump scare wasn't scary enough. That's right, Springtrap's jump scare was so mild that it was basically ketchup, and it caused fans to get upset, especially for what felt like the end of the series. So Scott came back, and he came back hard, making FNaF 4 and the Nightmare animatronics, and then he just kept it going from there. So yes, Springtrap's jump scare was a mistake, because without it, I might actually be able to get some sleep at night without thinking about what animatronics may be under my bed. Hopefully, it's Chica. Hey, mommy! Into 3 jump scares and nightmares. While designing and developing the Five Nights at Freddy's series, Scott Cawthon found himself startled by one of the animatronics in the game when he lowered his camera and their face popped up. And I guess you all know what it was, okay? The animatronic actually wasn't supposed to be there due to a game glitch that startled Scott, and he was scared so bad that he actually ended up having nightmares. But this glitch would go on to be one that would pave the way for the feel of the games, and it inspired Scott and made him realize that he could have something very special on his hands when it came to FNaF. Haha, that's right. And without him experiencing the unexpected Bonnie jump scare, of course it's Bonnie, who knows what the game would have been. Although Freddy also wasn't supposed to be moving, and he did. So this could be in relation to that as well. He didn't really specify, but we all know that he was scared of Bonnie. But he also, Freddy wasn't supposed to move. He was supposed to stay on the stage, but then he started moving. So that could be a glitch, or that could just be an urban legend that Scott made to make us all fear the series more. But ultimately, in at number 2, FNaF World. That's it, that's the number. FNaF World was a mistake. We don't talk about it. Alright, moving on. Just kidding. When FNaF World was originally released a month early, fans rushed to play it, okay? For Scott, this had been an exciting project that he had been working on for a while, which was different from most of his other games, at least in the FNaF series. However, although loyal fans seemed to enjoy the game, eager to express their love for it, critics and the general populace just felt the opposite. The reviews from critics were actually so poor that Scott felt that the only way to deal with the criticism was to take it down. He removed the game from Steam and then offered a refund to everyone who had played it, whether or not they enjoyed it. He then set out to fix the game, and it kind of did, okay? It was a little bit too rushed even for him, even for a man who made a game in 87 days. The game was later re-released on Game Jolt after being patched, and it was also released for free. However, because of the mistakes made early on, nobody really played it after that. I mean, I played it on the channel and I still don't understand it. I don't know how it works. Okay, Scott inevitably realized that the game was unfixable and was forced to scrap it and move on, but you can still play it. You can still play it, we just don't talk about it anymore. That's it, we don't talk about it. And finally, in at number 1, Chipper and Sons Lumber Co. Scott's inspiration for the game, actually for like the FNaF series, actually came out being one of his biggest fails. Before he became famous for creating FNaF, Scott Cawthon was someone who constantly found himself criticized for rushing through his game development. And it was this kind of criticism that he faced from video game critic Jim Sterling surrounding a trailer for one of his games, Chipper & Sons Lumber Company. Jim made fun of the game, using his review to spin a far-fetched narrative for the game involving a post-apocalyptic world where humans had been replaced by robots, describing the characters in the game as animatronic-like. Scott had decided to embrace the criticism and actually set out to build a game based on this outlandish narrative. Jim's criticism ended up later becoming the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, so without that mistake, or without that fail, we wouldn't have FNaF today. And you know what? I think that might be better for my mental health. But you know what? I don't talk about it. And it's at Betrayal. Top 10 worst anime betrayals, but it's FNaF. In sister location, we thought we finally had a nice animatronic. The first nice one, like basically a prototype of Glamrock Freddy. Baby was giving us tips on how to survive, she helped us get through Belora's gallery, she really seemed like she wanted us to live. But then, what do we get for trusting her? Scooped and stuffed just like a Thanksgiving turkey. Sounds like my last relationship. That sounded weird. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean that. I meant, like, that's what we get for trusting her. This was probably one of the most brutal things to happen to a character in the entirety of the series. And it's all because we trusted Baby. Okay, she made us feel safe, gave us confidence, prevented us from getting killed, only to use our body as a skin suit and then fill us full of Ennard's animatronic parts, and then also just leave Ennard, not even a game later. Okay? This is why I don't trust Glamrock Freddy. Baby is legit one of the reasons that I have trust issues now, and that's saying something. Like, holy damn. I could have sworn Glamrock Freddy was going to do the exact same thing. Like, lead us down to Afton, then pull a psych, I've been working for this dickbag of a Mother Hubbard this whole time, time to die. Ha-ha! But he didn't. However, thanks to Baby, I still think that he's going to do the long con and that he's going to betray us in the next game. And without that, then we wouldn't have thought that McMichael is a robot and then the whole there's two purple guys now. Okay, it was an important moment, okay? And 9, true ending. The true ending of Security Breach is seemingly the scariest part of the game. This one is unlocked by finding the secret elevator in the section in Roxy's Raceway. It's down the stairs from where you find the test driver head. This requires your Freddy to have the Monty Claus and the Chica voice box, I guess. However, it is also possible that you can only get through it with the voice box if you like call Freddy to you. He can like appear on the other side of the gate and then smash through it because he's required to. But yeah, you have to do this after you stay to complete the game. You have to deal with a boss battle with one go, okay, without saving. So that's going to be a pretty rough time since save states are disabled after you could have escaped. After making your way into Burntrap's area, Freddy will be taken over by Burntrap, and it's up to Gregory to defeat him using one of the 3 monitors and then pressing buttons to burn him. Players will also need to avoid the animatronic enemies that come for Gregory and use the doors to temporarily lock them out. When Springtrap is finally burnt for the final time, the blob, which was the whole tentacle monster thing, will attack him, making sure that he doesn't get free. At least, we hope that that's the case. Freddy and Gregory will be shown escaping and then sitting on a hill together, which is the first time a character has run away with an animatronic, and where an animatronic has not been a bad guy who ultimately betrays us in the end. So, yeah, that's significant, okay? Don't question me. And at 8, hints. Once we started looking for lore hints and clues in more than just the games, we knew that we were going to be in for some extreme buffoonery with this series. I mean, like, looking in the game files is one thing, okay? People do that all the time, especially for popular games. But once we had to start looking in the source code for Scott's different websites, and then everything that followed that, we knew that there was nowhere safe from his tricks. We learned multiple things thanks to the fast facts found in FNaF AR's files. We know that after Sister Location, Baby gets into a fight with the rest of Ennard and gets kicked off the island because of the source code. We got so many 8s and 7s before the release of FNaF 4 that we found a real-life pizza place on Google Maps, and we were looking so deep we ended up finding the original names to files to find the name of Vanny before it was even released. So yeah, needless to say, it's certainly been a wild ride since we saw those 8s and 7s in the source code. And then it only got more intense. Can't wait to see where this series goes with the hints next. Oh, probably just scrawling them on the inside of my eyelids. And it's 7, hiding spot.
How the absolute living hell did anyone end up getting away with this? Like, the smell of rotting bodies inside of animatronics would ruin the atmosphere. The heat of the animatronics moving as well, that would just speed up the decomposition, and the animatronics are in front of people every single day. And they even started complaining that the animatronics were leaking blood and mucus and were, quote, smelling like death. If this was real, and William getting away with this wasn't important for the plot of life, he would have been cut instantly. Like, oh, we never found the bodies of these kids. How about we look in these leaking animatronics? Because, you know, they're leaking blood and mucus and smelling like death. Oh, wow, look at that. There's bodies here. We found those missing kids. Afton, you're under arrest. Boom. Like, instantly. I don't get how this wasn't an open and shut case. Like, straight up. He was so goddamn stupid. Like, he shouldn't have made it past the first game. His plan is a whole dumpster fire of bad ideas. But the entirety of the series would be different had he not hid the bodies in the animatronics. So, well played, I guess, William. And at 6, the one you should not have killed. The introduction of the one you should not have killed is probably the most confusing character ever. While we have had more confusing moments, the argument over who the one you should not have killed, aka the vengeful spirit isn't over. But no matter if it's Cassidy or Crying Child, the vengeful spirit was introduced as an explanation as to why Afton always comes back. A spirit that was possessing him and keeping him alive, which I called. I called that Afton was still living in the Springtrap suit, but all of you didn't believe me. And here we are. He was alive in the suit. And even after that, for some reason, you don't believe that I'm right about Crying Child being the one you should not have killed instead of Cassidy. Despite my over, like, 350 different videos on FNaF. Okay, I feel like I know enough about this series, especially with the calls that I've made in the past. Okay, I was one day off on the Security Breach release date, one day, and you still don't think I know enough about this series. Come on, people, come on, just accept me as your overlord, and this would all be so much easier. Halfway through into number 5, Dream Theory. The actual concept of dream theory is nothing new to any series, really. The idea that everything we've seen could just be a dream is possible with any form of media. But when it comes to FNaF, this idea made a lot of people upset, and I guess that's understandable. With everything being a dream, it in essence makes the lore worthless. So the hours and hours people spent trying to work it out being pointless if it was true. However, if this was the intention, we never knew, since in FNaF 4's ending we see a locked box with the now infamous line of perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now. And that for now has been around 6 years. Currently, according to Scott, from what I've seen, nobody has actually solved FNaF 4 yet, but then again, I don't think Scott knows who we are, so maybe I have and he just doesn't know it. But with the game surrounding a kid in a coma who's experiencing nightmares after getting chomped on by a seriously overpowered animatronic jaw, I think us getting the idea that this could be indicating that everything is a dream is a little on par for what the actual course was at that point. We were so invested at this point that we actually started scanning the source code, and again, found a real-world pizzeria thanks to the multiple 8s and 7s, and I still don't know if that was accidental or not. I don't think anyone does. I don't know if Scott actually knew about that or not. Maybe he was the one who put that on Google Maps. And at 4, soft reboot. The soft reboot the series is undergoing at the moment, and more so at the time that Help Wanted was released, was something that we had never seen before, well, at least in the FNaF series, and seemingly started the trend of characters from games becoming sentient and trying to escape the confines of games and come into the real world. That, you know, we see play out through the FNaF games after Afton becomes sentient code. But even then, the next game seems to throw that idea away while we're keeping what happened there. Or at least in the mobile port canon with Princess Quest. It's a real issue, okay? The real issue comes from the next soft reboot they attempted to do in Security Breach again, with Afton now having a physical form. Again, his death being a mystery, and the game setting up the next owner for wherever they want to go. And while I understand that, I wish you could have just, like, given it one path. You know, or, like, at least, like, just killed William off for us permanently. I'm still upset about that. Getting close to the end into number 3, Springtrap. Being the genius behind some of the most advanced robotic technology in his universe, we expect a lot from William Afton. He's the suit technician, but he's also the main killer. So, he should really know what he's doing, right? Well,
Apparently not, since after discovering that the original 5 animatronics were possessed, he disassembles them to learn their secrets. This inadvertently releases the spirits of the original 5 victims, causing William to panic, which is fairly reasonable since firstly they're freaking ghost kids and ghost kids are the scariest kind of ghost, and also because they're ghost kids that he killed. So this absolute animatronic genius, the mastermind behind everything, the technician that handles the suit maintenance and has explained to every employee the proper procedure for these spring lock suits, including the spring bodysuit that he uses to kill, ends up climbing inside the suit in a panic in an attempt to make himself feel more powerful and maybe scare the ghost kids off. However, since he's so smart, he didn't notice the moisture in the room, the leaking ceiling, the puddles on the floor, causing the spring locks that were active at this moment since it was in suit mode to fail, which would have killed him had he not been possessed by the vengeful spirit. But I mean, without Springtrap, we don't have FNaF 3, and we don't have like literally any other game after that, so kind of important. And ultimately, in at number 2, FNaF 4. Not only is the spring locking important, and on top of embarrassing, but the next game, FNaF 4, is one of the most pivotal moments in the series. After what Scott intended to be the original end to the series after 3 games, he came out with a 4th after the community was disappointed with the Springtrap jump scare. So lo and behold, we get the Nightmare animatronics, and the story of Crying Child, who still doesn't have an official name, since the N in Evan is a stretch and the whole Gregory thing is still up in the air. However, this kid really changed the way we looked at the series, from thinking that William was a grieving father to, after looking closely, that he instead designed these animatronics to kill, and the mysteries of this game. What's inside the box? Who's the one who says I will put you back together? And really, what does it mean? It's been like 6 years after the game's release, and we've still been unable to definitively answer those questions. And that's why the series has lived on for so long, okay? The amount of mystery and intrigue is just too much for us as humans to ignore. As humans, we want answers. It explains a lot about society. But let me tell you, those who don't worry about FNaF have it made. I guess ignorance is bliss. They don't have to do this. And finally, into number 1, live stream. After MatPat's big FNaF 4 theory relating to dream theory and how the entire series might be a dream, something later disproven by Scott, so thank God for that, there was still a series of cryptic messages that made us think a whole load of crazy for a while. And you know what? Maybe we were right at the time, but as the series grows, so does the story. It's like a living organism adapting to changes in its environment. Why would Toy Chica be missing her beak? And 4 games, 1 story could have made sense back then, but now we're not entirely sure if they have an impact anymore, since it's definitely more than 4 games. At the time, we thought that this meant that Crying Child was Michael Afton, something that honestly kind of made sense, in the weird FNaF way of making sense. But now, we've decided that it's not the case, and honestly, I think that this is the way the series will stay. Not about the Mike thing per se, but specifically that we will never know what's really going on, and that the story will instead be what we as fans make it instead of what Scott might have originally intended. Sure, he can help gesture us in a better direction that would make more sense with what he wanted and what he has planned, but I don't think that we'll ever know what Scott originally thought the story of the series would be. Hence why when Dawko asked him which FNaF 3 ending was canon, Scott said he wouldn't answer.
Number 10, Five Nights at Freddy's, High School. Okay, so sadly I was not able to track down the official cartoon for this thing to watch, but apparently there is an animated series based off of the animatronic characters from FNaF. What? If this does exist and it isn't a joke, it looks ridiculous, because the show is actually supposed to imagine what the lives of the animatronics would be like if they were human and in high school. Yeah, because that's something we needed apparently. The description reads, Golden has no control over his life, Fox has made mistakes, Chica has no friends, Bonnie is constantly bullied, and Freddy has a secret. Say what? Someone trying to turn the world of FNaF into a high school drama series? But why? Why does everything have to become a high school drama now? And although I wasn't able to find this animated series, in the process of trying to track it down, I actually stumbled upon several different animations from various studios that explored the world of teenage drama with the animatronics being in high school. Like, what? This whole idea seems to be a huge mistake. I hope this never becomes some sort of official like Cartoon Network show, because I don't think I'm ready for that. I'm cool with like a scary cartoon, with FNaF, but not like high school drama. So much drama. Number 9, Night 8. A weird glitch in the game allows you to play through an 8th night in FNaF 2, and possibly also in the original FNaF game as well. Apparently, when you scroll through the starting menu following completion of the game can glitch, which will allow you to play Night 8 out of the 5 nights. I know, I was surprised too when I first discovered there was actually more than just 5 nights in this game. The name is a bit of a misnomer there. Yes, even the first and original FNaF game, you play 5 nights, and then you can continue onto the hard mode, Night 6, and then you get to play Custom Night, where you can actually change the level of difficulty for the AIs of the animatronics that you will face. Now, glitching at the game in FNaF 2 reveals Night 8, though whether or not this was a mistake or an intentional glitch remains a mystery. Some people think that it was actually something that was being worked on but wasn't finished yet, though most people just believe this is a straight up glitch, especially because Night 8 doesn't seem to have anything super standout about it. Number 8, Balloon Boy. FNaF has taken some flack for inconsistencies in the game, and while some can be attributed to story being the reason for variations in character depiction, or simply a trick of the light when it comes to some of the details, not all can be reasonably explained, or can have a case made in terms of them being intentional. The inconsistency of the color of Balloon Boy's buttons is one mistake that many fans think was not intentional, but simply something overlooked and not finalized. Balloon Boy's buttons originally appear white when he first appears in FNaF number 2, but later appear to change to black, even when you shine the flashlight on him. This has led people to theorize that there are actually 2 Balloon Boys simply because of this small overlooked inconsistency in his design. What do you think? Was this a mistake or was it intentional? Number 7, Where's Chica's Cupcake? While Chica has become known for her cupcake, which she's often pictured as taking around everywhere with her in the games, this has left many fans of the franchise wondering where it was in the first game. Now, in that game, Chica is still wearing her Let's Eat bib, but she doesn't really have any cupcake snack to come along with her. She's not holding that cupcake on a plate. Because I think FNaF blew up in a way that Scott was really not expecting. There have been many inconsistencies with characters' props like this in the game. And because there is so much story and lore surrounding the events of the game, a lot of people are looking for more of an explanation than just, well, it hadn't been designed yet, or it was simply forgotten. Number 6, fan art. After promotional artwork for FNaF 7 was released on social media, it was almost immediately taken back down. Fortunately, fans still got to see the artwork released, as it had already made its way to Reddit, where it was preserved. Why had it been taken down? Well, apparently Scott had removed the artwork because he had discovered that the person on his team who had created it hadn't just used his own artwork and models for the game, but had accidentally used fan art mixed in with Scott's own work. Because of this, he immediately took it down, not wanting to use someone else's work and lay claim to it, and was understandably upset that this had happened. So, how did this happen? Well, apparently it was because the fan-made models that his team had found were actually so close to the original skins of the characters from the game that they thought they were actually Scott's own designs. Following this mistake, Scott actually commended those who had made the fan art for doing such amazing work and made it mistaken for his own. He even admitted that some of the fan-made models that he'd seen were even better than his own models. Although we've seen some other moments that showcase this, Scott's reaction continued to highlight just how much he cares and respects the fan base of FNaF and its community. So although this was a mistake, it was still kind of like a really nice mistake. Definitely made people, I think, realize how much Scott cares about his fan base. Number 5, continuity. For many, a lot of the story that is explored and hinted at in the games has become somewhat hard to follow or understand, more filled with theories than having something concrete that we can hold on to. While many have praised the games for the story that begins to unravel the more and more you play, involving murder and family drama, there have also been some continuity errors within the lore. The only thing that can be said about retcons being introduced in regards to the storytelling is at least Scott recognizes that not everything that he will make is perfect, but he has reassured the community that he does spend time putting effort and thought into this story, while also admitting that he is bound to make mistakes on his journey. I mean, aren't we all? Number 4, FNaF film script. That's right, Five Nights at Freddy's has become so popular, there is a movie in the works. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen eventually, right? This movie was originally supposed to be produced by Warner Brothers, but then moved over to Blumhouse Entertainment when it came to the studio that was going to be taking care of it. Known for their hand in the creation of such horror films as Insidious, Paranormal Activity, The Purge, Split, and Get Out. This film has been in talks since 2015, and in 2018 a script was finally provided, one that Scott had actually worked on that both Jason Blum and the director for the film, Chris Columbus, had both apparently liked. I mean, obviously they liked it so much they approved it. Unfortunately, Scott scrapped the script following its approval. Taking to the forums, he updated the fans on the status of the film, sharing that he had liked the script, but that he actually got a better idea for it, and so he decided to scrap the original script. So instead of pre-production getting underway in 2018, it's likely that we'll have to wait at least another 2 to 3 years for this film, if we even end up getting one. As far as I know, we have yet to hear about anything but a new script being approved, so da-da-da. Number 3. Jump scares and nightmares. While designing and developing the game Five Nights at Freddy's, the creator Scott Cawthon found himself startled by one of the animatronics in the game when he lowered his camera and its face popped up. The animatronic wasn't where it was supposed to be due to a game glitch, which startled Scott, and he was actually scared so bad he had nightmares. But this glitch would go on to be one that would pave the way for the feel of the games, as it actually inspired Scott and made him realize that he could actually have something very, very special on his hands when it came to FNaF. Boy, was he right, it took off. Without him experiencing this unexpected glitch and jump scare, who knows if the game would actually be the same. Sometimes mistakes shape us. Number 2, Five Nights at Freddy's World. When Five Nights at Freddy's World was originally released a month early, fans rushed to play it. For Scott, this had been an exciting project that he had been working on, which was different from most of his other games in terms of style. While most FNaF games are more survival horror, this was more of like an open world RPG. However, although loyal fans seemed to enjoy the game once it was released, eager to express their love for it, critics felt just the opposite about it. The reviews from critics were actually so poor that Cawthon felt the only way to deal with the criticism was simply to take it in. He removed the game from Steam and offered a refund to everyone who had played it, whether or not they enjoyed it. Then he set out to fix the game that he felt may have been a little too rushed, even for him. Scott Cawthon does have a thing with rushing his games. He just gets really excited and wants to get them out there pronto. Five Nights at Freddy's World was later re-released. After being patched up and because of his prior mistake in rushing development, Scott offered it for free to all who wanted to play. However, because of mistakes made super early on in the development process, Scott inevitably realized the game was kind of unfixable, and he was actually forced to scrap it and move on. This was a huge thing when it happened. Number 1, Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Scott's inspiration for FNaF actually came out of one of his biggest failings. Before he became famous for creating Five Nights at Freddy's, indie game designer Scott Cawthon was someone who constantly found himself criticized for rushing through his game development. And it was this kind of criticism that he faced from video game critic Jim Sterling, surrounding a trailer for one of his games, Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Jim made fun of the game, using his review to spin a far-fetched narrative for the game involving a post-apocalyptic world where humans had been replaced by robots. Now, Scott decided to embrace this criticism and actually set out to build a game based on the outlandish narrative Jim thought he was posing, which would later become the first Five Nights at Freddy's. So without that mistake, or without him failing initially, we wouldn't even have FNaF today. And in fact, it was his approach to fast development that helped in building the franchise, as fans have enjoyed how Scott often manages to release new games ahead of their intended release dates. So while for some people that might be a downside, for a lot of the fans, they love that about the games.